Anyone involved in recording knows that EQ is one of the mainstays of audio production. It's the processing you're most likely to find on every track in a mix, even on subgroups and sometimes the main stereo output, as well as in the mastering suite. Getting a handle on the best use of EQ is pretty much a two-part process. You want to first get well-versed in the technical aspects, frequency ranges and such, and then you need to work with it while your ears get familiar with the effect of utilizing EQ in the various ways you'll be applying it in context. Naturally, as an engineer or mixer is working toward a greater mastery of EQ, there'll likely be a few mistakes made along the way, specific choices or habits you fall into that might not be the most effective way to use the tool. This series of courses, 10 mistakes or 10 don'ts of various production activities, focuses on some of those things. Common, and sometimes less common, uses and applications that it would probably be best to avoid. This course, of course, covers 10 things to watch out for when using EQ. It assumes a basic familiarity with EQs, but just to be thorough, I'll do a brief review of the technical layout of a typical studio EQ before jumping into the 10 don'ts themselves. Most EQs you'll see in the studio are parametric EQs. They'll typically include 3, 4, or 5 independent bands of processing that'll cover the full audible frequency range from 20 Hz to 20 kHz. While some EQs have fewer controls per band, a fully parametric EQ will have 3 settings for each band. Naturally, there'll be gain, the boost and cut available for the frequencies that fall within that band. This usually ranges from around plus or minus 10 dB to maybe up to plus or minus 18 dB or so. Each band will have a center frequency adjustment, the center of that band's frequency range. The band will affect frequencies above and below it. This is called a bell curve, or a peak and dip response. Most EQs have an option for the outside 2 bands, the highest and lowest, to affect all frequencies above or below the chosen frequency, respectively, which is now referred to as the corner frequency. This is a shelving response. And finally, how wide a frequency range is affected around the center frequency is set by the bandwidth control, usually labeled Q. Many EQs also incorporate a high and low pass filter, which, instead of shelving, gradually remove frequencies above or below the corner frequency, which in a filter is referred to as the cutoff frequency. There are various subtle differences between EQs, things like the shape of the EQ curves and how the bands interact. These factors, along with the specific requirements of each track in each mix, will contribute to an engineer's determining the best application of processing with a particular EQ and a particular recording. So, with that brief rundown out of the way, let's start taking a look at some of those things to watch out for when using EQ to shape the sound of a recording in a mix.